Well, this is fun. Um, hello, all. And it is 5 o'clock. And I just put up the notice about 3 minutes ago. I'm thinking about doing a live right now. And it is, in fact, I believe, a Tuesday night, which means that I'm not sure anybody's actually expecting to see me do a live right about now. But I was just sitting down, flipped on the big old TV on the wall, started flipping through the channels, and realized weren't nothing on. And usually I go, okay, nothing's on television. How about this? How about this? Let's uh let's check the old DVR, see if we picked up anything. Maybe we picked up a show. No, my DVR didn't pick up anything. Yeah, Isaiah, on a Tuesday, here we are. I'm with you. I'm just as confused as you are. So Scott Summers is in the house, Mustang MG05, Tom, Barney Sluga, Tyler Pasquale. Hey, from South Carolina, haven't seen you in a while, my friend. Cool Cats Fishing. I was expecting you to do a live this afternoon. Oh, no one is expecting that. This is less expected than the Spanish Inquisition. H.C.H. Elfman. Any relation to Danny? Hi from Jersey. Georgiana Thornton, good afternoon. Cornut, hello from the Pacific Northwest. Likewise, B Meets, John Buchanan, Lady D. Delphine, or Fine. Could be either. Could be either. Kevin Mims, hello from San Diego. Hey, DePaul, nice surprise. Kazooie Trisha, what day is it? It is a Tuesday. Tom, 1,250 channels and nothing on. You got that right. Joel Kirschman, howdy, Steve. Scott Argyle, dropping in from the Oregon coast, Seal Rock. William Page, nice to see you. And you, my friend. Bill McMahon, Chuck Whitehead. AMZ, hey, Steve, any thoughts on cannolis? I'm not as up on cannolis as I ought to be. So, Scott Summers, you've seen some of the posts I tagged you in. Probably. I say that because I've got 5,000 friends on Facebook and I get tagged in a lot of stuff. And so I try to look at everything. I don't always respond to indicate I've seen something, but I try. I'm always looking for new ideas, as you might know. I am McNathan from Sun City Center, Florida. Dead Dog Rising. Is that a yoga position? Good afternoon, Steve from Tacoma. Michael Hoyland. OMG. Hi. Sarah C., how you doing, my friend? Good to see you too, live on a Tuesday. Deborah Cyprian from Pontiac, Michigan. I spent some time in Pontiac not so long ago at the Woodward Dream Cruise, looping around out there in the heat on that hot Saturday afternoon. Tyler Durden's in the house. Ram 50 V8's checking in from the shop in Harrison, Arkansas. Larry 58 McCaffrey, British Columbia. Fred Hoyt. Hi, Steve. Good afternoon from Henderson, Kentucky, says Tim Raber. BBCC Selena. Chris from Kansas Watch every day. Victor Sheldon, obvious captain. Dead Dog Rising. Steve is the GOAT. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Michael McHealthy. Nice surprise to drive home. How long's the drive? I'll make sure I go long enough. Although, to be honest, I did bring liquids just in case. I have no idea how long we'll do this. Doug Sparks, Tuesday froze over. Chuck Whitehead, just me pursuing postcards. Is it Sunday already? From North Alabama. Mammy. Peter Jensen from Austin. Tom Redmond from Hillsdale, Michigan. Hillsdale. It's a bit out there. Dan Hale. Rampage Tiger. From the submarine capital of the world? Which is that? I'm unfamiliar with it. Vinny Sluga. Phil LaRoe. D-Real. Steve, you're the man. No, you are the man or woman or whatever it is you identify as. Manuel Guerra, go for riding the Viper if nothing on the tube. You know, I could have done that too, but it was raining. Now it's sunny out. I don't know. Just judge by the light you're getting there. It's sunny out, but it was pouring about 10 minutes ago. What can I tell you? Dead Dog Rising's up there catching salmon in the Pacific Northwest, which is where they tend to congregate. Tourney Nets checking in from Iowa. Tom says, hey, Taco Tuesday and live Lehto. Life is good. Have a great day. San Diego, hot and humid, according to Steve G. Steve G. Okay. Pontiac, Illinois, getting his kicks on Route 66. Ram 58 says, Steve, your voice sounds better than Sunday. Yeah, I'm just getting over, now that you say that, I have an urge to cough, but I'm just getting over like a summer cold. It never got that bad, but it was just one of those lingering things, you know? So after about an hour of talking, my throat starts to get a little sketchy. Rolling Meadows, Illinois, Vinny Sluga. Whitewood, South Dakota, Todd J. Rittle. Susan MVB, my crush is live. Doesn't sound creepy. Just really enjoy your content. Well, I enjoy your comments, so thank you very much. Tim Rabers says Henderson is the home of the Viper high in the sky. Is that a Viper that they've got like elevated for some reason? Oh, Rampage Tiger, Groton, Connecticut, home of the shipyards, right? Groton? I think I'm saying that right for once. Someone's going to go, oh, no, you're not. Art S., nice surprise. Greetings from mythical Central Jersey. Is there a Central Jersey? That's like Brigadoon. Howdy, Steve from Long Beach, says Johnny Quest. John Buchanan, any word on the Gordie Howe Bridge opening? No, but it's getting there. I believe they've connected the two sides, which is always a major milestone in building a bridge. So Bill Van Ram's checking from the San Francisco Bay Area. Jason just says, hello, everyone. Art S., your Michigan rain clouds just showed up in Jersey. That would be moving pretty quickly, but we've had a lot of stuff blow through here recently. And what's funny is I'll be talking to my brother who lives about a half hour away, and he'll be like, is it pouring where you are? No. Half hour later, dude, it's pouring here. He's like, oh, it's sunny here. I mean, it's just these cells of rain that just go through and boom. Joel Jensen, Glenwood Springs, Colorado, caught another live. Fatting Butterpants, who was here on Sundays, now here on a Tuesday. Tuesday's not gone with the wind. It's live with Steve. Joshua Gibson tore down an old pig palace today. Got to go shower. It can't wait. I just want to know, is a pig palace literally someplace where pigs hang out, or is that like a really weird euphemism? Secret Voices, hi, Steve. I avoid your lives. I don't want to be a disruption. YouTube algorithm's working great. I always see your new content. Well, thank you, but you have to understand something. And by the way, I have some people who check in, say something in the live, and I don't respond to it, and they get all mad at me. And I try to respond to everything, and once in a while it jumps or whatever. But anytime you're here, if you could just say hello, just go to the chat and type in hello. And it's so nice because I go back and rewatch these. I do, because I want to double check, make sure the sound is okay. But I do rewatch them, and I'll see people that I missed, and I'm like, oh, I'm sorry I missed them, but at least they were there, you know? Built on the Rock Homestead, Texas here. Just got back from feeding my friends critters. They flew to Poland on Sunday. Of course, the automatic gate broke today. Of course it did. QA Library, 2203 here in Europe. Tesla rejected a $60 million settlement in a wrongful death case down from a $243 million court payout. I saw some headlines. I have not read that one yet. I'll take a look at that. Tacoma in LA, or it could be Tacoma or Taco Man. I asked this last week. I'm not sure if you answered me or not. Greetings from an 81-year-old Juanita's Cafe on Olivera Street in Los Angeles. I recognize the name Olivera, but I don't know if I ever ate at old Juanita's when I went to law school in Los Angeles. Tim Raber, a first-generation Viper, placed on a pole for an advertisement with 8 miles on the clock. They had it down all summer as it got repainted. I saw some stuff on that. Pretty wild stuff. Nenson Dubois, it is a perfect day outside, and I'm sitting indoors chatting. Now I feel bad. H.C.H. Elfman, I first learned of Gordie Howe when Bart Simpson used his photo to catfish his teacher. And as Bart Simpson said, I can't help but feeling that this is somehow my fault. But at the very end, they showed the Gordie Howe playing card with his statistics on it. And Gordie Howe, of course, was one of the original supermen of hockey. He played just so many games, so many seasons, so many teams. But a huge chunk of that was played in Detroit as a Red Wing. And Gordie Howe in Detroit was one of the most recognizable people, recognizable names. And the fact they're naming a bridge after him is very, very fitting because the bridge connects Canada to the U.S. Nenson Dubois says it is actually a little hot outside. So it's not a perfect day. It's just a little hot. Joshua Gibson says a hillbilly terminology is a pig palace. So it's probably not a place where pigs sit on thrones and smoke cigars and long holders and say things like, what are the peasants doing today? My name, hello, For the two, hello. MFD, hello. Gary Curry, hello. Fatty Butterpants says that Pig Pals could also be a local strip joint. Hi, Steve from Puebla, Mexico. And then it jumped on me. That's James Milano. Reason PTV. Don't know what that word is. Nancy Dubois, how is the weather in Michigan? I've got 60 degrees outside. I was mowing not so long ago. Then I saw the clouds roll in. And then I discovered that my lawn tractor has got a serious leak in one of the tires. So I had to jack it up, take tire off, race to the shop where I get my work done. And I give the guy a big rear tire off a tractor. And they're about to close. And I go, when can I pick this up? He goes, 9 o'clock tomorrow. They open at 9 tomorrow. I go, really? Like, I can't get here that fast. He goes, okay, well, we'll have it for you tomorrow. So there you go. Kevin Smith from Akron, Ohio is checking in. Art S says, according to North and South Jersey, Central Jersey doesn't exist. So each say that Central belongs to the other because nobody wants it. It's an unwanted child. Douglas Gaxiola, had to check my phone, thought it was a Sunday. Yeah, you slept right through from Tuesday to Sunday. Tony Pellegrino, greetings from a fellow hammy, just waving the hand. Love the mic collection. 73S N2 ATP. I'm not actually a ham operator. I am not. My brother was. My brother could do the old Morse code thing. But I just simply have a microphone collection. I worked in radio for a long time, and I've always enjoyed those microphones. Luke, Lord, love watching your videos. Been watching for years, but never managed to catch live yet. So love that I've caught one. Well, there you go. Because, when I do the lives on Sundays, I have people tell me, they go, Steve, I can't be there on a Sunday. I've got other things to do. I've got church or whatever. And so I've noticed that when I do these at oddball times, I can often get a different group of people, and that's always fun. So, Scott Summers is always here. Just joking. Bet you get bots. Haven't seen any bots yet. We'll look. Michigan Farm Boy says 69 to 70 here in mid-Michigan. Yeah, it might be closer to that here. I'm not quite sure. MFD Yo from Eugene, Oregon. Kevin Smith, dang, it's not Sunday. Yeah, no, it's not. It's Tuesday. KC8 BDR checking in from Waterford, Michigan, home of, I think it's 52nd District Court. Been there many, many times, but it's been a little while. Used to know the judges there really, really well. Chuck Whitehead, do you have to report a court settlement to IRS, even small amounts? It depends on what the settlement is for. Also, I'm not going to get into this because it depends wildly, but I can tell you that in some cases where you're suing somebody and they have to pay you money, if the allegation was that they owed it to you in the first place, then it wouldn't be income, right? Because I've had people say, well, if I get my car bought back by the manufacturer, I got to pay income tax. I mean, why? It's not income. It's a refund. It's not income. But it might be different where you are. So consult a tax specialist. Amber Cherie, hi from Laurel, Mississippi. Art S says the Michigan-built PT boat is heading to Canada. Obvious Captain, what do you think of Jesse Wells? Not familiar with Jesse Wells. I apologize. Some of the newer stuff out there, I'm not so familiar with. I don't know if that's new or not. I actually saw Rob Thomas here in Michigan on Sunday evening at a little place, Freedom Hill Amphitheater. Beautiful venue. Great night for a show. And Rob Thomas, I've seen 10 shows this year, and I would not have guessed that that'd be as entertaining as it was. And it was. And he did a bunch of Matchbox 20 stuff. He did a couple covers of other people's music. He did some of his old solo stuff. He's a great performer, had a great time. But that was Rob Thomas on Sunday night. But, of course, Rob Thomas goes back a little ways. So Jim Naden, 71F in Gas City, Indiana. Joey C is also in Waterford. Me you says, I am a bot. Rudy says, Steve's playing hooky. Why? It's past 5 o'clock. Man known only as Jeff, Sheboygan in the house, but the way it's spelled, I suspect that's Sheboygan, Wisconsin. B meets, it's 63F here. Sweet, mild coastal weather. Art S, any drives or road trips planned? No, and we're getting near the end of road trip season. I did do the long drive down to Atlanta and back to shoot the videos with Ed Boley and a Vin Wiki a few months back. Also swung through Nashville on the way home, but haven't done any like multi-day trips in a while. Done some day trips. I ran up to Port Austin and back one time, cut through Bad Axe on the way, and so on. But not that much this year. Jerry C. I just walked in picking up some truck parts and roast beef sandwiches and can now relax, feed my face, and listen to some wisdom. Well, 2 out of 3 ain't bad. Dead Dog Rising, hello. Is it you I'm looking for? CIA context is it's only income if they catch you. Yeah, the problem is whether they issue one of those pesky, what is it, 1099 or something like that. Mark Wilson, 67. Wait, what? Nice surprise. Pyramid 7, Rob Thomas is such a great singer. He is. He's a wonderful singer. And he's got a lot of great music, too. And he told some really interesting stories. He didn't slow the show down, but he took some appropriate breaks to tell some little short stories. And it turns out, by the way, his son is the lead guitarist of his touring band. So he's got this really, really good guitar player. And he goes, oh, by the way, he tells a story about how he wrote a song when his son was born. And he goes, and this is my son right here if you want to do the math on that. So Joe Wilk says, you commented a few weeks ago on your second channel, people calling you about a video you posted years ago. The YouTube algorithms are suggesting a lot of your old videos. Oh, that's not the problem. But somebody watches a video and goes, I think I'll call this person at their work to yell at them about my opinion. Doesn't matter if the video is new or old. But yeah, no, I can see which videos of mine get views when. And right now, if I look at the top 10 videos from the past week, 1 or 2 of them are years old. And people comment on them all the time. That's great. But when someone calls my office and leaves me a message and goes, hey, you just did a video. And I'm like, I don't even remember the video. And I realize, oh, wait, they're talking about a 2-year-old video. But I get your point, so thank you. KJ says In-N-Out is now in Washington State. We talked about that last Sunday. Manuel Guerra says, hey, I'm in Nashville, and I'll be shooting some Vin Wiki stories soon, too. Well, and let me know when they are. I'll plug them for you. He's run 2 or 3 of mine already, but he's got 7 or 8 more to go from this batch. I'm just one of these guys who just sits here and talks, and he's pointing a camera at me. Magic, are lawyers allowed to use phone as evidence? What phone? What about a phone? The phone itself? Contents of a phone? Things on a phone? Nowadays, there's all kinds of stuff on your phone, including probably where you are and where you've been as in a tracker and all your emails and all the photographs you've taken and so on. Daniel Fiore, can I call the office to BS when I'm bored? Well, that's what I think most of these people are doing. Nenson Dubois says there is no In-N-Out here, though a Firehouse Subs is coming soon. Hoping Quiznos comes back soon also. Quiznos. Yeah, they were hot for about a minute, right? Nancy Dubois says, I disabled my phone location, other tracking. I'm going to trust you guys will tell me if I lose sound. I'm taking these off. I can't get them to stay in anymore. Don't know what the problem is. Scott Summers is speaking of restaurants. One post that I was tagged in is about a new location of a Hot and Now. Yeah, I don't remember. Like I said, I don't think I've ever eaten at a Hot and Now. So it's not like I remember them fondly or anything. I've just heard they're coming back. Fatim Butterpants, I clicked on your live tab a few weeks ago to see if you were on and scrolled down through a couple of years of live thumbnails. Noticed you don't age. Yeah, I've struck a deal. It's not with Satan. It's actually with the YouTube algorithm. I don't want to tell you what I paid for it, though. The portion of my soul. Tyler Durden says, Whataburger, best burger place. You know, I've heard that. I've heard that they're good. I've never had one. So IBJI says, Quiznos will come back when Kenny Rogers comes back. I assume you mean Kenny Rogers, the restaurant, right? Which of course wasn't it part of a Seinfeld episode? Yeah, I just got Gatorade on my hand, and it's gonna be sticky now for the rest of the afternoon and evening. Isaiah says Michigan needs the Waffle House. Yeah, I've never eaten a Waffle House, but I've driven by them before. Art S, since you know the Aussie Pink Floyd guys and they played for him, do you think David Gilmour would accompany them? I don't know that he would do that. I know that they've met him and talked to him, and they did play his birthday party at his invitation. But so Chuck White, have you seen the new Cracker Barrel logo? Yeah, we talked about this on Sunday. I've seen it. I've only eaten Cracker Barrel one time, and I didn't go back, so it doesn't really bother me one way or the other. Dread, should I go to run club tonight if my foot still hurts from the last one? You got to be careful about injuries if you're a runner. I've had a couple running injuries in my career. I had the Achilles tendon one time, and the only thing that would really make it go better was icing it and not running on it. And then I had a problem with one of my hips one time, and got around that, and there you go. Dan Hale says maybe Waffle House just needs Michigan. Art S, everywhere needs the Waffle House. Are they franchises? Is there some reason that they're not in Michigan? Because I know In-N-Out is simply owned by a family that's just expanding carefully. They don't want to borrow tons of money. They don't want to get sold to a big corporation. Rudy says you got more than one hip. Don't most people have two? Dead Dog Rising says you think they would at least email you first. What, the people who call the office? These are people who don't know that email exists. Yeah, Travis Eastlick says if you see the Waffle House closed, get out of town fast. And people have noticed the correlation between the openness or closedness of a Waffle House and whether or not FEMA will be there in a week and a half. Isaiah says $250,000 fee to open one. A what, a Waffle House? So I would suspect they make money. They appear to be quite popular. If there's only some way to monetize the parking lot fights, that would that would do it. Dead Dog Rising says it looks like a gas station sign now. Yeah, what did it look like before? It looked like a old sign from a like a country store, and well, that's what they were going for. I don't know that I want to eat in a country store from the 1800s. That's what do they serve there? Frank Kajowski says Coyote versus Acme 2026. Yeah, I'm still right now. I've got several projects ahead of me, and one of them on a distant back burner is putting together some kind of shindig around the movie Coyote versus Acme. We'll pick a location a little bit more towards the middle of the country. Try to make it as convenient for as many people as we can. And we'll also do some other stuff there. I've had some other ideas pitched to me. And I'll get the Canadian Robot Lady there. And we'll have a good time. And we can even live stream the before and after. Obviously, we can't live stream the movie. But we'll do that. So hey, I just got a notification that apparently I'm currently live on YouTube right now. Oh, Gilbert says the Weather Channel has the Waffle House monitor for hurricanes, and welcome, Gilbert. You've been playing hooky on Sundays. I'm just mentioning it. I'm not critiquing you. I'm just mentioning it. Oh, Analog Designer Jay says sorry for being late as I've been busier than a cat trying to bury diarrhea. MD Hofsty says Waffle House does not offer franchising. They're all corporate stores. That would explain why they haven't spread like a virus. Fatty McButterpants, yeah, gas station sushi from the 1890s. Yeah, it's just a slab of carp at room temperature. Carl's Corner says, Steve, rent a movie theater. Well, it's kind of what we're going to do. We're going to find some place that can get us the movie and get us the venue. 'Cause I don't want to do it where like we're all going to the 3:45 showing at the such and such, and when the movie's over, we got to split. No, no, no. I want to be able to go and have people come early and hang out, meet and greet, take pictures, whatever, show the movie, and then afterwards, perhaps do a Q&A on stage with a bunch of people who had nothing to do with the movie. Trust me. Oh boy. Martin Godinez, hello from Long Beach. John Buchanan asks if you are on YouTube live. No, this is a recording. And the amazing part is I anticipated your question with perfect timing. Chief FC says, imagine if you got a notification that you were live and hadn't known about it. Who put that there? Gilbert says, what's centrally located? Iowa? I don't know. Is that your vote? I'm in Michigan, okay? And I wouldn't do it in Michigan because north of, like, say, I don't know, Flint, there's not a whole lot up there. So I think it makes more sense to move it down into Iowa or Illinois or Indiana or even like Pennsylvania or Kentucky or something, just in the middle part. Gilbert, rent the Royal Oak Music Theater. Wonder what they'd charge. But the problem is you got to rent the theater and you also got to worry about working out a deal to rent the movie. And I want to find a movie house that can do it as a turnkey operation. It says, look, we'll show the movie one night and you can have the entire theater if you pay this much money. And we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. Rudy, Steve, weren't you doing a book release or something? Eventually. John Buchanan says, hey, do it in Saskatchewan. Saskatchewan. Why not Anchorage? Joe Comanche. Oh, that's a JC Comanche, St. Louis. MHU at Omaha. Bite me. Where's Ben? Ben is. I forgot. Is that Ben right there? That might be Ben right there. Hang on. Turn around. Yeah, you can see Ben. You can't always see Ben, but there's Ben right there. Right there. So, Jay Klein says, any place but Ohio? Carl's Corner need to have an airport close by. Is anybody going to fly in for this? I can't imagine. Well, I told the Canadian robot lady because she probably won't be local because she's in Canada. I told her I'd fly her in, but Supras and Subarus says we have a drive-in here in Long Prairie, Minnesota. A drive-in would be interesting on one level, but we couldn't do the intimate stuff like hanging out and so on because, it's outdoors. Carl's Corner, bring books. Oh, I'm surprised they haven't got books on me right now. Michael, I like how you choose your words carefully. Must take a lot of practice for newer lawyers. It depends. I've met lawyers who aren't very specific with their speech. I'm not as specific with my speech as I am when I'm writing, because I often am trying to speak in plain English, here. But, DePaul votes for Indianapolis. Rudy says, I can't remember, you said you were going to do a book tour. I've never really done a book tour, but I have done book signings, and I'll announce them. JC Comanche, what am I flying in for? Well, we're going to be doing hopefully a screening of the movie Coyote versus Acme. I did a video about it back when they killed it. Then when they revived it, I said we should do a screening. And everyone likes the idea, but the movie's not coming out till next year. So I'm going to try to find a place where we can get a bunch of people to show up for it. I've also talked to the Institute for Justice to see if they wanted to hang out, and they indicated they might enjoy that too. So we'll see what happens. Nakarance is geographic center or population center? Well, I'm trying to think of a population center where I can put it closer to the most people. Unfortunately, people on one of the coasts or both the coasts might be left out, and I'm sorry for that. Gilbert says, "Well, isn't Pueblo, Colorado, right in the center of the U.S.?" Everything Stage Lighting says located in Orfield, Pennsylvania. Shankweiler's is the oldest drive-in movie theater in America. Is it still running? And is it the longest running, or was it the first, or both, or Joe Interstate? Steve, man fined $28,000 for walking into the woods in British Columbia. I saw that story, and they said he shouldn't be back there because of a wildfire ban. And they doubled the fine to 56,000. He's challenging that in Canada. I didn't do a story on it. I'm not sure why. Just other stuff. Of course, the joke is, yeah, but it's 56,000 Canadian. No, I'm just joking. Just joking. Dead Dog Rising says, "Well, I drive a semi, so you think you can make it work in the back of a 53-foot trailer? Then we can go anywhere." Anthony XX says, "Hey, ask Hertz if they want to hang out." I almost ought to, because Hertz is one of those companies that just keeps on giving. And Carl's Corner says, "IJ will represent the Coyote. The class will represent Steve." How about that? Jeff N4POD. How about Nashville? Nashville wouldn't be a bad location. I think that's pretty centralized. Just have to find a theater. So I mean, these are all good ideas. I just have to talk to some of the other major players and then see if we can get, like I said, a theater that says, yeah, we can do this. Because, like I said, I don't want to say like, oh, we have a theater from 5 till 7, and the movie's going to be no. I want to have it where it's like, hey, look, the movie shows at 6 o'clock. We're going to be there from 3 o'clock, and then the movie shows at 6, and after the movie, we're going to have a thing. And if you want to come early, you don't have to. You want to, you can. We'll give away some stuff. We'll whatever. Everything Stage Lighting says, yes, it is operational. And Michael says, I just watched a video on Shankweiler's. JC Comanche says, I hear Sarajevo is lovely this time of year. Yes, the European tour is next. Oh. Daniel Kester is here. Hey, Daniel, I meant to send you a note to say I was thinking about this, but I did it on such short notice I didn't get a chance. Bite Me says, what's wrong with Hertz? I was going to rent a car from them to get there. Do you know what I should do? Honest to God. Do you know what I should do? If we get this put together someplace, we should have door prizes. And I should give a door prize to the first person to show up and prove that they rented a Hertz to get to the show. I will do that. I will put together prizes. And one prize will be to the first person who walks in with their rental contract says, look, I got here in a Hertz rental. We can all go out and scratch the car. Dead Dog Rising makes sure those people don't want to put the screws to you. You just can't be free to be an everyday person. I'm not sure what you mean by that, but here's the thing. This is something I thought up. It's my idea. So, I will try to work things out to where it doesn't wind up being a burden to me. But I think it'll be fun. It'll be worth it. I've had some very interesting offers from people who said, look, depending on how it schedules out, there's some other cool stuff we can do. I just don't want to mention too much stuff because if it doesn't happen. Nakaron says, will you represent them when Hertz arrests them? Well, only if we're in Michigan, and we probably won't be in Michigan. Mr. Bob Newell, do you like the Amboy Dukes? Journey to the Center of the Mind with a young Ted Nugent on guitar. And it's knocked down right now, but I'll put it back up. But right there on my shelf is a Jukes pin for Southside Johnny and the the Asbury Jukes. Joe Interstate says a lawmaker in Florida is trying to introduce a bill to ban HOA. HOAs. The problem with that, of course, is HOAs are simply contracts. And you could theoretically do something to do away with them. But what do you do about the existing ones? And you'd have a huge fight on that because they're going to say these are contracts that are in place for years, perfectly legal. And you can't just go and by fiat erase a bunch of contractual obligations. Johnny Knoxville says you can rent the car with full coverage and then go out and do a demo derby with it. Oh, Daniel Kester says the trick is to get a Hertz rental and to simply get to the show without being arrested. Mr. Bob Newell, do I ask stupid questions? No, I laugh because the Amboy Dukes is somebody that most people outside of Michigan would not recognize. Amboy Dukes had one song that got airplay called Journey to the Center of the Mind. And Ted Nugent, that was his first band, at least the first band that got recognition. And so I've known about Ted Nugent for quite some time because one of my brothers had that album. So I know all about it, but I suspect that 89% of the people here have no idea about the song Journey to the Center of the Mind unless I ask them about it. And Brenda Snow, who likes Ted Nugent, may have recognized that. Josh Homan heard that one. Brenda Snow says Ted's early stuff is great. The album Ted Nugent, with Just What the Doctor Ordered, is a very good album. His later stuff, not so good, but his early stuff is stellar. I saw him in concert. Hang on. Let me think about this now. 1989 or 1990. Daniel Kester is a Canadian robot lady going to join in. I don't think so. I didn't send her a message. This is the last minute, literally at 10 minutes to 5. I thought, I should do a live. Joe Interstate, buy a digital projector and blow up movie screen and have an outdoor screening. That's a lot like doing a drive-in, right? Rick Oliver saw Southside Johnny in 1986 at the Ritz in New York City. I've heard he's retired, and I'm so sad because he did not spend much time touring where I am. And I would have loved to see him. I've seen video of him performing live. I love Southside Johnny. Don Thice, how about a live YouTube showing? I will stream the event live. So people who can't be there can watch the pre-show and the after show. But I understand it's not the same. Jay Klein heard of the Amboy Dukes because of Ted. Josh Jogmina's Tuesday stream. Hey, guys and gals. Jim Naden's my generation here in Indiana knows about the Amboy Dukes. Okay. Do you know about the Frost? Does the band The Frost ring a bell? They're from Michigan also, right around the same time. Bito Juice says, hi, Steve, longtime viewer, first-time commenter, just visited Michigan for the first time in my life. Was taken by how beautiful your home state is and how nice people are. Great place. Thank you. And I'm curious to know where you went for vacation. There's a lot of places you can go, especially if you can make it the Upper Peninsula of Michigan along Lake Superior. There's some places up there to blow your mind if you haven't seen them. So Padre says, I heard a radio announcer say it was Ted Nugent that sang on Stranglehold. It wasn't. No. I'm drawing a mental blank, but because the guy later had a solo career also. Ted Nugent was one of the rare bands where the records were put out under the name of simply the guitar player. And no, but I mean, it's like Van Halen. Two of the guys in the band were actually named Van Halen. But yeah, so you can say that's Stranglehold by Ted Nugent, but you can't say that's Ted Nugent singing Stranglehold. Josh Homan, Just What the Doctor Ordered. Is that the one they used in a Dr. Pepper commercial? I'm not sure. I'm not familiar with that. MHOA projected on the side of the garage. You can call it Lehto stock. Sadly, my garage isn't large enough to screen something. Johnny Knoxville is Steve Lehto doing a stand-up comedy show or a Don't Buy an RV live show. No, I was thinking about trying to get some people in that you might know of, or people from the Institute for Justice, or people like that, where we could just chit chat about things informally, and just kick some ideas around. But like I said, I've spoken to some people, but I don't want to get too heavily into it because some of this stuff might not happen. Rick Oliver saw Ted Nugent live in 77. Yeah, that was right around the time that album came out. We're talking about. My hearing's never been the same. I've been to some live shows. I was an Allman Brothers concert at Pine Knob, and I sat really close to a wall of speakers. And I swear that the sound like was the equivalent of like sandblasting the side of my head, but with sound. It was bad. I mean, the show was good, but I walked out of there like almost like leaning because of that. So Padre, Great White Buffalo from Double Gonzo Live. Um, Denise Marie, rent a place where people can bring in friendly dogs and cats. I worry about both the insurance concerns and just, what happens when you bring your cat someplace and it gets loose, or you bring your dog and it bites someone? Because I've actually heard of a lot of dog on dog violence. I've got a friend who's a veterinarian. He says that he sees quite a few dog bites on other dogs. And it's people at the dog park or just a regular park, and a dog runs up and bites it and runs away. Oh, Beetlejuice is mainly in Ann Arbor, but the Upper Peninsula is definitely on my list for the future. Ann Arbor's cool. Ann Arbor's the home of University of Michigan. Neat little college town. Downtown area is really nice. Beautiful area. Huron River runs right through it. Uh, Beautiful area as well. Derek St. Holmes. Thank you, Paul E. I was drawing a mental blank. I knew I'd remember it. Derek St. Holmes sang on Stranglehold and a bunch of the other songs. So Rick Oliver confirms Derek St. Holmes, singer and second guitar player for Ted. So Jerry Dodge actively trying to find the $100 bill, which is right there. It's just not in focus, but it's there. Johnny Plays. Hey, Steve, this is my first live of yours. Well, thank you. Good to be here. Fatty Butterpants likes the idea of getting in the Institute for Justice. Brenda Snow loves Double Live Gonzo. That was my introduction to Ted. Well, I grew up in Detroit, and at one point in time, Detroit had 4 rock and roll stations, as Gilbert can confirm if she's still here. WABX, WLLZ, WRIF, and W4. And at one point in time, all 4 of them would play Ted Nugent. So it was wall-to-wall Ted Nugent. He's one of the, and him and Bob Seger. Bob Seger even more so. Although Bob Seger, when he started getting nationally and a little bit mellower, started dropping off the rock and roll stations with his newer stuff. But DePaul 31, the big house in Ann Arbor, go blue. Yeah, and we're looking forward to a football season this year. And the question is, they've announced that they're starting a freshman quarterback. And it is either going to be spectacular or horrific. And that's the kind of thing that college football is all about. uh, Jason Finch says, hey, Steve, happy to see a live stream today. Just hopped on, so I'll have to watch later to see what I missed. Gilbert remembers the good old days of rock and roll and CJOM out of Canada. There ain't nothing like being a Canadian radio station trying to compete with 4 rock and roll stations in a nearby market. Mr. Bob Newell, longtime caller, first-time listener. Ooh, say Oz is find a theater where you could book In and Out in a food truck. Does In and Out do food trucks? Jerry Dodge said my mom's in an oldies cover band, Flabby Road, as the keyboardist, and Bob Seger is her favorite to play. That's funny, Flabby Road. I know a couple people. I, of course, know my friends in Aussie Pink Floyd. I got another friend, Tom Hawkinson, who's in a Beatles covers band down towards Cincinnati. And it's fascinating, that whole culture of these things. Jay, what's the details about the event? Oh, we don't have the details yet. That's the whole point. Mr. Bob Newell says, you skip over my good material. Not intentionally. Johnny Knoxville says, the heart of rock and roll is still beating. Don't get me going on Huey Lewis. I'm like Homer Simpson with the Blue Man Group. If you get me going on Huey Lewis, I'll go off on a rant for 20 minutes. So not tonight. Not tonight. Darren Dowda. Hey, Steve, it's Darren from Aurora, Colorado. Oh, hey, how you doing, my friend? Just wanted to say hi. Darren's a good friend of mine. Darren and I, we have an ongoing conversation about cars. It never ends. And it's just us trading little notes about cars we've seen. Thank you for checking in. I appreciate that. And it's funny because the conversation that you and I and he and I are having, I don't know if you realize this, but every now and then I just look at my phone and I see a comment, I see a little note, and I'm like, hey, brightens up my day. Joe Interstate says, Steve, Michigan is paying the quarterback $12 million in NIL money to join the professional college NFL minor league. That NIL stuff, I have no idea what to make of it. I really don't. So Gilbert says, Minnesota, we've got food truck parties. Yeah, they've got those here in Michigan also. The tricky part is you see three you like, but you really only have to eat, you can really only eat one before you start getting. Nakaran says Huey Lewis is a pretty badass harmonica player. Yeah, but is he as good as John Popper? Mr. Bob Newell, do you know my friend Ben Rabinowitz? He lives in Michigan. No, I don't. Sorry. Kenneth Bennington, KB in from ABQ, a Tuesday surprise. Fatty McButterpants says Huey Lewis's worst song was Ghostbusters. He had several that would tie for that, I think. Jay says, I meant, what's the event you're planning? We're talking about the movie Coyote versus Acme is coming out next year. I did a couple videos about it, and I said what I'd like to do is put together some kind of screening of that movie for my audience. So we'll find a location, we'll get the theater, we'll get the movie, we'll get a bunch of people to come in. I'll be there. I'll try to get the Canadian robot lady there. I'll also try to get some people from the Institute for Justice there. I got some other people I'm asking who've said depends on what time it is and so on, and we don't know that yet. So we're trying to juggle these things, and so we'll go from there. Mr. Bob Newell, have you met anyone famous? Well, I've met some famous people over my life. I know Jay Leno quite well. And by that, I mean, I've hung out with him a bunch of times and so on. I met Alice Cooper in a bar in New York City. I met Danielle from American Pickers at a book signing that I was doing in Chicago. And I also met Linda Vaughn. Right now, some guys in the audience are going, ooh, do tell. Oh, boy. Kenneth Bennington, I normally miss Sunday, but yay for me. There you go. Dogboya1, KE9, ASU. That'd be cool. I would love to attend. We'll do what we can. Travis Eastlick, you need to invite the chick that is a DJ. She was cool. You mean the Canadian robot lady? Heather? She will be there. Daniel Kester, try to get Mr. Leno there. Yeah, I don't know. B meets my husband is related to Alice Cooper. Really? Closely or distantly? Alice Cooper, of course, is from Michigan. Very, very nice guy. Oh, Chuck Whitehead. I met Richard Petty, Junior Johnson. Something, when I meet people, like I interviewed Richard Petty. I sat and talked to him for an hour and a half one day on camera. I've interviewed Richard Petty, Buddy Baker, Charlie Glotzback. Who else have I met from that group? I've met a whole bunch of those people. Richard Petty's one of the nicest guys on the planet. One of the nicest guys on the planet. I can't say enough about the guy. Bob Newell, Linda Vaughn, Vaughn, I believe. So Reliable Rusty says, Steve, are you aware that Silas from Adventures Made from Scratch found a bunch of old brochures and one of them was for the rocket car? You mean the turbine car? I have the brochures, the turbine car. They actually made quite a few of those, the brochures, because Chrysler was using that whole program to promote cars. Art S., you also know the guy that headed up the restoration of Jay Leno's turbine car. Yeah, although my brother's not famous. But Belios says Jay Leno could drive his Stanley steamer. Well, he's got enough cars to choose from. Fatty McButterpants, I met James Baker, the former Secretary of Defense, and a bunch of senators and governors. I still feel dirty. Oh, I've met a bunch of governors, Michigan governors. I met Milliken. I met, oh boy, Jennifer Granholm. I met John Engler. I met a whole bunch of them along the way. Jerry Dodge says, I hate to sound petty, but I won't back down. Gilbert says, my son says he'll come to the movie too. Oh, Mom, do I have to? MH08, are we going to have to enter a lottery for these movie tickets? There's no way we can sell this out. No way. Absolutely. No. I'm going to do a theater where it's going to be sadly underattended, but I'd rather do that than have it where, hey, I drove here from Albuquerque. I can't get in. Kenneth Bennington went to an after party with Iggy Pop after a show at Bookies on 6th Mile back in the day. Bookies on 6 Miles right off of Woodward Avenue in a sketchy part of town. And they had some really cool bands played there long before. If you heard of a punk band in the 70s, the first time they played Michigan is probably at Bookies. Didn't matter how big they later became. Bookies, legendary. Speaking, Mr. Leno, how's he doing? Daniel Kester asks. He's fine. He had a couple accidents there, but he's decided, I think, to be a little more careful. A little more careful. Daniel Armstrong, I'd love to be able to see Jay's collection in person. I've seen it a couple times. I've been there a couple times. It is stellar, especially if you walk around with him, because he knows these cars and how you could know that much about so many vehicles. And you can literally just point at any one and go, what's the story on that? And he'll tell you what the car is, why it's special, how he got it, does the whole thing. And it was half joking, but I saw a crankshaft just by itself in the corner. I go, what's that? And he goes, oh, that's a crankshaft. It goes over. And there's projects going on in his garage. He actually has some really, really cool videos. He's got a channel on YouTube, Jay Leno's Garage. Check it out. And for instance, this week he went for a ride in his army tank. It's not the scout car. It's an actual tracked army tank. And he took Jeff Dunham out and he let Jeff Dunham drive the thing. Now, Jay let me drive his turbine car. I didn't get to drive his tank, but he didn't have it at the time. Although I saw it when I was there last time. But check out his website. He's got some really, really cool cars there. But he does videos about a lot of them. And so there you go. Jay had to do a double take when it said you were live. Johnny Knoxville, the Odd Rock Cafe in Milwaukee, legendary punk bar, Gigi Allen, the Chili Peppers, and Nirvana. I remember people talking about the Chili Peppers back when they were still like a novelty group because, hey, these guys don't wear clothing on stage. Belio, is it true that for the Chrysler Turbine, they were well into the demo program and someone finally asked how much was it for these cars? And somebody said about $10,000. Well, I actually talk about that in my book because the cars were never officially offered for sale. And they were built as a publicity stunt / experiment to prove they could be done. And so the cars were hand built in Italy and the engines were built in America. And the engines were actually the part that would have been cost prohibitive. The engines themselves were probably about $10,000. But it depends on whether they're going to put it into the Ghia built cars from Italy or shoehorn them into, like I say, a 66 Dodge Charger, which is something they considered doing. And they decided not to do it. But there's a lot of confusion as to what the actual cost would have been if they had decided to actually mass produce them and so on. Jerry Dodge, I once delivered Oriental rugs to Muhammad Ali's house. Unfortunately, his massive bodyguards were helping him walk, so I couldn't properly greet him. Was that in Michigan or was that in Chicago? Because Muhammad Ali for a while lived in a little tiny town called Berrien Springs, not far from where I used to live in Eau Claire. When I lived there, he was no longer there, obviously. But I heard, I'm like, oh my gosh, it's Berrien Springs. So Michael says he had the opportunity to tour Jay's garage for a $1,000 charitable donation, but couldn't afford it. Ooh. Daniel Kester has a car that has an engine from a Zeppelin. I'm not familiar with that. I know he's got a couple of those V12 aircraft engines in cars. Ted McLean's checking in from El Paso, Texas. Gilbert, does Jay Leno have a movie theater? Let's just hold it at his garage. No, I have no idea. Benny and the Jets went to see Australian Pink Floyd and Joliet a few weeks ago. During the day tour, the former state prison of the Blues Brothers was filmed. Very cool place. How was the show? Daniel Kester's getting the cucumbers from his garden. It's that time of year. Prince Albert's indicates it's not Sunday and it's not even 2 o'clock. No, I try to do pop-ups occasionally. Occasionally. B meets my grandfather was in the movie Tucker, The Man in the Dream. It's on cable right now. I've seen it a bunch of times lately. Belios' Billy Crystal's audiobook has great stories about getting to be good friends with Muhammad Ali, and he does the voices too. Art S. Was the turbine design refined to the point where it could be mass produced? They were real close. They were real close, but you have to understand that the engines in the program, they probably built about 75 or 80 of the engines. Many of the parts, for instance, like they have fan discs inside the engine. And for instance, in a big airliner turbine engine, each blade is individually installed and so on. They actually had them where they had the fan discs that were actually, single piece castings, which is very, very unusual. And they did that, but the problem is that to scale up, they have whole plants designed to make piston engines. A plant where they cast the blocks and then they make the pistons, and they cast the connecting rods, all this stuff. And they didn't have anything like that for the turbine engines. And so somebody said, if we're going to do this right, what would it cost for us to scale up and build the gigantic plant to make all these parts in-house? And they said, well, the front end cost to be about $1 billion with a B. And this is like the mid 60s. And they're like, yeah, it's not going to work. Johnny Quest, B. Dylan Hollis just posted a black and white photo of his classic caddy on Facebook. I saw that and I was going to respond to him, but I wasn't sure if it was appropriate or not because he and I follow each other. I have a photograph a friend of mine took me in front of my Jeep and it's black and white. Kenneth Bennington saw The Police, Finger, Prince, 999, Buzzcocks, and Susie all at Bookies. Doesn't surprise me, but think about how big The Police later became. Benny and the Jets, APF was amazing. Would definitely see them again. Good. I'm honestly looking for feedback because I have a lot of people go, well, Steve, you just liked him because you know the guy. I say, you know something? I've spoken to a lot of people who've gone to see their shows because of my recommendation, and I've yet to have anybody come back and say, Steve, you're wrong. So Slnesh's Thera, is that therapy? Therapeutic? Theranos? I've been watching for a while, and I want to say thank you for making the content you do. You helped me get into the law and up to date on the now going on through courts. Here's a 10 out of appreciation. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. I really do. Peter Mannix, whoa, just got in. Am I late? You hit at the 1 hour mark, so a little bit. Belio, do you know enough about the Tucker story to compare the movie to actual history? Yes, I wrote a book on Tucker. The movie is relatively accurate, and for a Hollywood production, it's extremely accurate. However, it starts off by making some false statements, including that Tucker created a bomb turret that was stolen by the U.S. government for which he received no money. That story is absolutely 100% not true. However, the movie otherwise is quite accurate, and many people I know his family members. I actually am good friends with his grandson, for instance, and they've all said that they captured his personality very well. And that's one of the things. If you imagine a movie being made about someone you know Hollywood's going to screw it up. Hollywood's going to screw it up. And they didn't. Of course, Francis Ford Coppola. But he also had a great respect for Tucker. He really did. And that came through in the movie. Belio says, yes. Jeff Bridges, yes, he was the star. John Michael Karma, how big was the blast zone of a turbine car? Well, the turbine car exhaust went out through two big exhaust manifolds, which is what they call them, even though they're not technically manifolds, because manifold means that there's several of something and there's just one. However, we'll call them manifolds for our purposes. Then they go into exhaust pipes that go underneath the car and they come out the back. And when it comes out, it's no harder coming out than regular car exhaust, and it's not much hotter either. So there you go. Biggles flies again. Check, test. 1, 2, 1, 2 from Hobart, Australia. Thank you for checking in, my friend. Jay, what's the next car planned for your garage? I do have a spot for another car, but I do not have a car yet lined up. Joe Interstate, Steve, towns in New Jersey are using safety sticks to give out parking tickets. The camera located on poles takes pictures for illegally parked cars and sends pictures to the police. Art S says Jay Leno's Merlin-powered Rolls Royce. Jay joked that it gets better gas mileage than the stock engine. Oh. Brenda Snow, I saw a Spitfire close up. You're talking about the airplane? I couldn't believe the engineering. The brilliant people that created those machines without computers is amazing. I've been to the RAF Museum in London, and they've got some very cool planes there. Oh my gosh. And among other things, they have a P-51 Mustang on a rotating stage that is just like it's a work of art. You look at this thing, but they have everything. They've got everything there. They've got an ME-262 and ME-163. They've got a BF-109. They've got a B-17. They got pretty much one of everything, seemingly. They've even got a Gloucester Meteor parked next to their ME-262. So Douglas Gaxiola, the police first tour was primarily small punk and rock venues. Oh, yeah. And like I said, though, they were later on playing, stadiums, huge stadiums. Art S points out the SR-71 was built with imagination and a slide rule in the late 1950s. Yeah, read the book about the Skunk Works written by Ben Johnson. And he talks all about the U-2, the SR-71, and a bunch of other stuff they worked on. And it's one of those rare occasions where a bunch of smart people got unlimited funds to do amazing things, and they did them. So Daniel Kester says, get a car from Fiberglass Freaks for your next car. He's the guy who made those replica Batmobiles. So Fatima Butterpants says, Tucker and Sully. At least Hollywood got a couple of movies pretty accurate. Although in Sully, I'm pretty certain that some of the drama between Sully and the NTSB was overblown. But other than that, yeah, it's pretty good. Jerry Dodge, imagine the people who designed and built computers without computers. I got a better one for you. Imagine the people who built like machine tools and lathes without machine tools and lathes. Got to start somewhere. Bill Van Ram, any interest in pre-war cars? Pre-World War II or one? Or are we talking about Franco-Prussian? No, I like all cars. I don't know that I would ever buy a car that old. Although my friend Mark Lieberman has got a 1913 model. Is it the Model T Roadster? It's a little race car that I would really love to have, but that'd be a toy. Steve Hill, specifically, how does the turbine car transfer power to the wheels? Well, there is the gas generation portion of the turbine, and it blasts exhaust backwards, and that exhaust goes over a fan disc, which is the power turbine, which has an axle going through it, and that power turbine wheel spins up at a very, very high rate of speed. And it spins up so high that it has to go through a gear reduction system to drop it basically 1 to 10. So it's spinning at, like, say, 10,000 RPM, but it's spinning a disc 10 times the size, which is spinning at 1,000 RPM, which runs right into a torque flight transmission without the torque converter, which is another story altogether. But that's how it works. So it's got an automatic transmission. Gilbert says they are fake bills, movie props. I hope you're not talking about my hundo right there, because that hundo's a real 100. That is a $100 bill, honest to goodness, legitimate U.S. currency with the watermarks and everything. It's real. I've had people send me the fake stuff, but I've never put it on the set. Rick Oliver, how did the person who invented the clock know what time it was? I got a better one for you. The guy who invented the violin, how do you learn to play it? Oh. QA Library, when are you coming over for the Goodwood Festival of Speed? That's one I'd really like to see. I would. Kenneth Bennington, the Air and Space Museum at the Smithsonian. I've heard that. I've not been there, though, strangely enough. Benny and the Jets says, I think you're underestimating how many of us will show up for the screening. I drove 3 hours to Wrigley Field for a 25th anniversary screening of Ferris Bueller's Day Off. The real question I have is I'm trying to figure out if there's some way we can measure interest or gauge interest. And if it looks like we might have trouble, do something, but I'm not quite sure. So Brian Selt asks, how do you throw away a trash can? Have you ever tried? Usually I chop it up or bend it up or something, or label it. Please take this. Jerry Dodge is in a live from a few weeks back, and I probably did say this. A fan literally sent him a $100 bill so Steve could ship him the display one. Yeah, so the original $100 bill is not in the set. It was replaced by one identical to it for some odd reason. And I have no idea who or why anybody did that. Although I did say once in a video, I will never pay a penny to somebody who sues me frivolously, because I got sued. But I said, if somebody honestly needs a penny, I'll give them a penny. And some guy emailed me, goes, Steve, I actually do need a penny. And I emailed it to him. I emailed him and said, yeah, I'll send you one. What's your address? And he got me his address. And I took a penny and I put it in a holder, like a coin collector holder. and I signed it and dated it and mailed it to him. And he actually posted, I think, on Facebook or something. Check it out. Steve Lehto sent me a penny. And then he had to explain to people what that's all about. But hey, that's up to him. Bobby Stocks, Ben Rich wrote Skunkworks. I accidentally said Johnson, right? Don't know where I got that from. Ben Rich. Yeah, great book. Jason Finch is interested for the event. Matthias, nice surprise. Greetings from Berlin. It is the middle of the night there. Yeah, what is it? Add 6 or 7 hours? Yeah, Carl's Corner, I swapped out the 100 to a viewer. Somebody asked that earlier. Isaiah says you could have people mail in an RSVP for the event, but the problem is the USPS. It'd be testing them. Oh, boy. Jay, are you going to hide Benjamins at the theater for viewers to find? See, if I announce that now, then people come early and tear the place apart. There's got to be some way I can do that, but we'll figure it out. Ram 50 V8, I have watched British comedy for decades to the point where spend a penny is part of my vocabulary. I don't know what that means, but I know what I'd buy that for $1 means. It's not British, though. That's RoboCop. Daniel Kester, development of the SR-71 is an interesting story. Yes. Yes, it is. The SR-71, the U-2, pretty much all of the stealth technology, like the stealth fighter, the stealth bomber, all that stuff. It's fascinating how they did all that stuff. Yeah, Matthias says it's just a few minutes past midnight here. So, 6 hours. Fatty McButterpants says, give me plenty of time so I can start walking. Beep Boop Bot checking in from Grand Rapids. Oh, Bobby Stocks is rich, succeeded Kelly Johnson. Okay. I had a feeling it came from somewhere, but I've mentioned this before. I'm reading almost all the comments, depends on how fast they're going. And I'll be reading one and trying to answer something else, and I'll have a word get stuck in my head over here, and before you know it, yeah, Fatty McButterpants has put an envelope under the seats, but the first thing someone's going to do is run through the theater and look for envelopes. So I can't do that. Belios' spend a penny is referring to the 1 penny cost of pay toilets in London. Now, here's the thing. I only remember seeing pay toilets as a child, and I'm reasonably certain they were at Tiger Stadium. So can anybody confirm for me whether or not they had pay toilets at Tiger Stadium in the early 1960s? Might not have been Tiger Stadium. May have been someplace else downtown Detroit, because I think those kind of went away eventually. Rambozo Clown, is it safe? Zah! Tyler Dye, appreciate your content. Vinny Northwest, I saw an SR-71 in the Spruce Goose at the Evergreen Aviation Museum in Oregon. I've never seen the Spruce Goose, but it is a very large wooden plane. So Daniel Kester's got a few shirts getting ready to send. Thank you. I appreciate that. Gilbert says you can do a YouTube survey to get an estimate count, but the problem is people will just respond and go, yeah, I'd love to go, even if they couldn't, you know? So I'm not sure. MHOA, remember paid toilets and bus stations and airports. Can you imagine that? You're traveling and it's like, I got to go find some change. Oh, Ram 50 V8. I remember seeing them at rest areas. Jeanette Buffington says off the subject, but thank you for paying homage to hams. I see you wearing ham radio shirts. Yeah, they're sent in by viewers. If you get your license, you definitely have a pile up. KQ4QUS 73. Brenda Snow says A-10 Warthogs are one of my favorite military aircraft. No, A-10 warthogs are one of my favorite things on earth. Let's build a Gatling gun that fires depleted uranium shells and strap wings to it and put engines on it so it flies. And those things are cool. And it's, they're once in a while somebody comes along with just the right combination of things, right? Like the P-51 Mustang was perfectly balanced with speed and firepower and all that. A-10 Warthog, same thing. Same thing. It's a plane that can do a job that other planes can't do. And it does that job so well that if you need that plane, that's the plane that you get. And it's every now and then they talk about taking it out of service. It's like, no, it's too cool. Keep it. Keep it. Oh. Jerry Dodge, the shopping carts at Aldi are genius where you put a quarter in to get the cart and you get your quarter back when you return it. Paul E., what size shirt? I wear a double XL. Double XL. Bob blah, blah, I heard they're retiring the Warthogs even though Ukraine wants them. I want one. Brenda Snow says, I don't think the A-10s are ugly. The A-10 is one of those things where it may have been ugly to the first person who ever saw it and didn't know like what it did. And when you see what it does, you go, okay, that thing's cool. It doesn't matter. It's cool. Oh, boy. Daniel Kester likes the Corsair. The Corsair was cool, too. Gilbert says in rural China, it's just a hole in the floor. Yeah, but is it is it a pay hole? Nakaron says the 130 gunship is pretty close to a Gatling gun and heavy artillery in a plane. And the scary part about that is you can go on YouTube and find camera footage shot from the plane. And you can hear the dialogue that the airplane is having with whoever's in charge speaking to the gun operators and speaking to some headquarters in the back. Not in the back of the plane, but back behind lines. And they'll be circling. They'll be circling overhead, loitering, as they say. And there'll be a bunch of buildings down there. And it's infrared, so it's in the middle of the night. So everything's backwards. So you see little bright spots where people are or running engines. And a voice in the radio will say, the building in the top of the picture, the square building, is a target. And somebody will go, we have it acquired. And you'll see the thing go down. And they'll go, are we authorized? And you hear a voice go, authorized. And all of a sudden, you hear a sound. And a split second later, the building just, whoosh, gone. And the scary part is they are so high up that the people on the ground don't know they're being watched or that there's somebody up there aiming a cannon at them. So, William Page, A-10, the infantry's best friend. That's one of the things they're good at is they can be called in low-level precision where somebody's pinned down and the bad guys are right over here. And they'll say, we need help. We need you to take care of these bad guys over here. And they'll come in. And by the way, when they come in, it's the opposite of the 130s up there. These guys come in. Yeah, Belio, they call the plane spooky. Spooky. Ram 50 V8, the 130 and the B-52 are the oldest aircraft still in regular use. Everything stage lighting, I actually ran lights for Jay Leno once. It was a Toyota special event in Kentucky. He was the MC, and I was the lighting director for CCR, the headliner. Super nice guy. He is a super nice guy. Canadian Chris, did you ever get a chance to do a shift on a radio station? Not recently. I was mentioning that if a radio station offered to me to let me come in and do a shift as a disc jockey, I would do it. I haven't put much effort into it though. I did do one up in the Finger Lakes area, WLLW, the Wall, where they do, in fact, shut up and rock. I still have that as a mouse pad on my desk. But I haven't done that again lately. And that was 2019. Joe Interstate reminds us that Custer was supposed to bring Gatling guns. They did leave them behind because they're too heavy. And the question is whether he's supposed to. I believe they're offered to him. And you have to understand that one of the things, by the way, I don't mean to go off on a tangent, but military history is something I'm into in different eras. And the Civil War and post-Civil War eras, I know quite a bit about. And one of the problems that the U.S. military was having is they were chasing down natives and trying to catch natives to put them on reservations and so on. And the Sioux Indians, the Sioux natives, Sioux Nation, they could travel faster than the U.S. cavalry. And they could travel faster despite the fact that they had the women and children with them. And it was frustrating for people like Custer or Crook because they could follow the natives by seeing where the tracks were, where they'd been, and they'd travel for a day and go, we're getting close. The next day they travel for a day, and the scouts are going, yeah, but every single time, like they're outrunning us. And so Custer was very concerned about anything that would slow him down. And so dragging the Gatling guns around would have slowed him down. So whether those would have helped him or not, because keep in mind, he wouldn't have had like 50 of them. He would have had a couple of them. And although they had a high rate of fire, they'd be from one spot, which would be very, very obvious. Crank, 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 crank. And of course, people would take cover and disperse and circle around back or something. So Dog Boy 01 says you could sell tickets on Ticketmaster. The irony is not lost. Padre, anyone interested in Napa Auto Parts unopened trading cards? What were they, trading cards of like famous car parts or something? Ryan, the A10s fly around here in Fort Wayne. I was going to post office one day and I look up and it's just two A10s 100 feet off the ground, maybe. I mean, seriously. So cool. So cool. Yeah, Ryan, the A10s are loud. Joe Interstate says Steve Custer had 400 men, but the Native Americans had 4,000. Yeah, but there's a lot more that goes into that because keep in mind that the natives at Little Bighorn, again, were there with their women and children. And they also, for some odd reason, were being chased by the U.S. cavalry. Not quite sure. I mean, but I don't want to go off on a tangent here. So everything stage lighting says at the event Jay hosted, Toyota gave away dozens of cars to all employees who didn't miss a day of work over a certain time period. Wow. Yeah, Nakaran says O'Reilly Auto Parts has Easter eggs in their site, including a flux capacitor. I've seen that before. MD Hofsey says that there's a new version of the B-52, the B-52J, with a smoother fuselage. Will that help its gas mileage? I love watching a B-52 take off and doing the math in my head and saying, how does that thing defeat gravity? How? Daniel Kester says a flying B-17 around here from time to time. I've flown on a B-17. I flew in the one that's called the Yankee Lady at the Yankee Air Museum in Ypsilanti. But about a year ago or so, they sold it. And it's the craziest thing because they saved this plane from a wrecking yard. And they restored it and got it flying. And it was the pride and joy of that museum. And to raise money, they decided to sell a plane. And they sold the plane they're known for. They've got a couple other planes. They've got a C-47. I've been in it. Don't really care to go for a flight in it. but the B-17 was cool. So there you go. Johnny Knoxville, Ticketron. How about CTC, the Convenient Ticket Corporation, I think it was called. Padre, what about the Antonov AN-224? Is that the big one? Or the NASA Guppy? Yeah, the Russians built one or two of those gigantic planes. And I saw a documentary on one of them boring channels in the middle about them bringing, I believe it was windmill blades to South America or something, and all the work they had to do to just get the stuff on board the plane and then get the plane in the air. And oh, it's a crazy thing. Jerry Dodge, yes, the massive Antonov, only two ever built. One of them was never completed. And is that the thing? Is that in like a warehouse in Ukraine right now? Or Steve Hill, I must go, but thank you for the chat. Watch out for crazies. I don't want to be one. Yeah, Padres is one of the Antonovs was destroyed in Ukraine. The F-22 Raptor, says Jay, is the U.S.'s most capable air-to-air fighter. It's got one confirmed kill. The Russian weather balloon from a couple of years ago. Yeah, it reminds me of, I saw a documentary recently on YouTube about the Falkland Islands and the General Belgrano, the Argentine battleship or ship that was sunk by a British submarine. And, we think about ships being sunk by submarines all the time in World War II. It actually hasn't happened a lot since then. And that was a big deal back when that happened. Andy New York 29 says the last new B-52 was built in 1962. Yeah, that's some impressive work in the aerospace industry if you can build something and more than 60 years later it's still flying, the entire type. QA libraries off to bet is 2330 there. Okay. Jerry Dodge got to check out. Old Paints is an IL-86 arrested at KI Sawyer a number of years ago. Didn't pay its fuel bill in Texas. Ooh, that hurts. Joe Kelly, I was built in 1962. The good old days. MH08, more than 60 years later, I'm still breathing. And dime bag coins, God bless Lululemon. Have no idea what that means. But tell you what, I am going to wrap it up. I wasn't planning on doing a full 2 hours. I was planning on doing 1 hour, but I'm here an hour and a half later. I want to thank everybody who stopped in, including the Misty Kushner, who worked on the F-4 Phantom in the Marine Corps. We said it was America's statement to the world that given enough power, even a brick can fly. Which is true. So Scott Argyle, Carl's Corner, Sarah C., everybody else, thank you very much. I'll be around as I always am. Usual times, and from time to time, a pop-up like this. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.